Boom. What's the worst that could happen? Hey
It's
everyone.
all downhill.
Something new we're doing here. It's taking a snapshot of things that are happening in the news, events that are key and pertinent, I think, to those listening. But if you're listening to this, it's right now on the Afterburn podcast, or if you're watching over on YouTube on the Afterburn podcast clips. But 50 joining in here. So
What's going on?
yeah, man. Thanks for this. You were flying late last night out there defending freedom. How was that?
Yeah, it was arguably top five darkest nights we were flying. We only fly nights on super low illum. So I think the moon went down at like 4:55 p.m. It was something like 2% illumination, and it was the darkest night ever. Had to take a B course student to the tanker for his first night tank experience, which is a significant emotional event. Just in general, the F-35 lives a whole bunch of other obstacles with the helmet and some green glow issues, and it's just a dark, scary world there. But we survived. So,
Dude, that is spicy. For those listening on the Afterburn podcast 50, I think you were guest number 2, but flying the F-35, former Viper guy. But today we want to jump around and talk some things that are happening. Everyone has heard about the 21-year-old airman up in Massachusetts. That's a really tough word for me to say. Who has been arrested for leaking documents. Not a good thing. And then not where you want to be in life. We're going to talk about that. I saw, and I got the article pulled up here, that unit lost their mission for intelligence today. The Secretary of the Air Force removed it, but wanted to jump in a little bit more about kind of the ramifications behind it, what's going on with it. So he's been charged with violating the Espionage Act, which was created or enacted in 1917 during World War I to prevent the interference with military operations. What are your thoughts on this initial take here with everything that's going on with him, from what he did to what's happened to him now?
yeah, my first reaction is like, what an idiot. But also like poor kid. Like, he's 21 years old, probably has no idea what he just did. Like, I'm sure. I only envision like this Intel nerd. No offense to my Intel friends out there. I'm just in like in the vault studying stuff, like hearing some interesting, cool things, and then going back to his mom's basement playing video games and trying to win arguments with friends, or however it is. And he's like, you know what? And it's a habitual like one upper, and probably finds a way to throw out some information and has no idea the implications of what he just did. Like when he did it, he probably had no idea. We all sign all the documents about like what will happen if you release information. But I'm sure in that moment he didn't think he was sitting on 15 to 20 years of prison sentence.
Yeah, I wonder, because people are like, one, how does like a 21-year-old have a top secret clearance? But that's normal.
Yep.
Rolling into the military, going into the intelligence field, like you can be an 18-year-old, you're obviously gonna go through the security clearance process, go through training, etc. But that's very normal. But like you mentioned too, it's like this guy is surrounded by this information day in and day out. Like I can see where he just doesn't obviously understand the strategic level implications of what's happening. Hopefully that's the case and not just complete malfeasance on his part, but bad news, because obviously it's popped up with stuff that is dealing with a lot with Ukraine, a lot with China capabilities, etc., that this guy had access to and spilled his beans. And as like you said, it sounds like in Discord, basically to try and win an argument with people, are, I guess, yeah, they're arguing about it. So insane.
Yeah. I'm curious what the fallout is going to be too. I mean, like you said, like the knee jerk reaction is going to be he's arrested. That's not knee jerk. He's arrested, rightfully so. The unit now loses their missions. Like, who knows if there was just maybe they cracked into it and it was just a total mess. But if it wasn't, I mean, I'm sure that like the answer to the public has to be, they have to reign with an iron fist. But I'm curious, like, what the fallout is. We've already gotten like dozens of emails in the past 3 days reminding us of like, hey, remember you signed all these documents that you go to jail, you release it, and even as simple as like just like seeing the information on the internet and then either uh, acknowledging that it's true or not true. Like, as simple as that is, a violation of of all those things that we signed a long time ago. So I imagine it's definitely a difficult time when there's so much stuff out there in the classified world, and if you're immersed in it every day and you're young and immature and don't understand the implications. I mean, I like to say that maybe it's easy for a quick slip up, but yeah, what a mess that kid got himself into.
Yeah. Well, again, like you said, too, now like that wing has lost their mission, but they probably went in there and they found a lot of things that were not good and pulling that. So it's affecting a lot of people that comes out of it just from a job standpoint, but obviously the intelligence spill that can result in the loss of life and put a lot of people in jeopardy. I thought it was interesting. I forgot I learned a long time ago. I think you found this piece, but the Zimmerman telegram from World War One, that was British intelligence that
Yeah.
intercepted a telegram from the German foreign secretary proposing a military alliance between Germany and Mexico. They basically said, "Hey, Mexico, if you help us out, we'll give you back Arizona, Texas, New Mexico, etc." And you can kind of see, that's probably the first big intelligence breach in modern times. I use that loosely, right? But it's going to go
Sure.
back to Alexander the Great and Genghis Khan, et cetera. There's always spies,
Yep.
running around. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. That guy, but like you said, it's probably not going to be good.
No, I can't. And it is. I mean, it is interesting when you think about stuff like how. I mean, very cliche, but loose lips, ships. Like, it takes one person to release one piece of information. I mean, even if you look at the F-35 side, like look at the jets China has, and they look oddly familiar to some type of baby between the F-25 or F-22 and F-35. F-16s, they have something that looks very similar, right? So like it could be just as simple as one person releasing one piece of information or letting someone in the loop, and it can all downfall from there.
Be curious to see, if this was like just a group of buddies that were arguing, but you can see that strategically, if you were trying to gain information and you identified, hey, this one individual has access to it, and then, oh yeah, they're a gamer or whatever it is, that could be a way to work yourself into trust or an argument, right? To try and, poke and prod and get something out of it. And this stuff's happening all the time. Even like I remember air shows when I did the one at Whiteman, there was certain individuals that would come around to like CADM AIM 120s. So like the concrete AIM 120 missiles for those who are listening. And, so they were putting their hand up against a missile and then taking photos, right? So
Oh, yeah.
OSI, Office of Special Investigation, is all over that, trying to figure that out. But that stuff is happening day in and day out. So interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. We were at when I was flying at Fort Worth, the Lockheed plants right there, and we routinely would have briefings from OSI talking about some type of, you know, kidnapper-looking van, like white panel van, sitting in the Walmart parking lot right at the end, with just a bunch of listening information and tools. It's like they're constantly out there.
Yeah.
The area thing was always funny. I always remember like the brief you get from like OSI or security folks talking about like the honeypots. Like, hey, you young fighter pilots, just remember, the only people that think you're cool are other fighter pilots and little kids.
Right.
So if you have some really good, attractive looking young lady walk up to you, asking you specific questions about your jet, she's probably not going after you.
Right.
She's
It's when you
probably
need
some type of plant there for you.
you need to do some like self-assessment. If you're a 4 or 5 and all of a sudden a 9 or a 10 is trying to talk to you, it's not all
Yeah.
of a sudden that you became really attractive. Maybe the information did. And funny enough, when I was a FATE, we took a tour of the Israeli aerospace in Columbus, Mississippi. It's right there at GTR Golden Triangle.
Yep.
The Israelis obviously are notorious for spying on us. The same with the French. That's well known. But like afterwards, got it. A couple queries. Like they're out there looking. And the last piece on this is like the Israeli tanker that sits on the ramp at Red Flag that has all sorts of antennas, and it
Yeah.
runs 24/7. You're like, huh?
And then you power to it the whole time. Yeah.
Yeah, they always have
Yeah.
to have it hooked to ground power, and there's like APUs always running. Like, they
Yeah.
must just be doing system checks all the time.
For sure, it's just a tanker. Yep.
Right. Hey, this is something that new that saw the Quicksink bomb. Have you seen that pop up?
I have. Yeah. They actually did it just off the coast down here.
Oh yeah, it was
They,
the 85th, right?
yeah. They routed a bunch of airspace. We had to fly about 100 miles away to avoid that whole area. Every time they're doing launches, they shut down the area. That's a pretty sweet video.
Yeah, look at that. So yeah, if you're watching it, you're seeing a big old boat get sunk, and like that thing is, I mean, that's sinking fast. I don't know how boats
Yeah,
normally sink. I guess I've seen the Titanic that sunk slowly, but that like rendering of the wreckage, I mean, it split it in two.
split half. Yeah,
Um, so the Air Force Research Lab, they released these videos that we got playing over here on YouTube, which again, it's pretty impressive to see this Quicksink bomb. They had three goals doing this. The first one was make a bomb that was like as lethal as a torpedo. The second goal was to make it much more cheaper than a torpedo, which I didn't realize how expensive torpedoes are. And I'm assuming a Mark 48 torpedo, because when I Googled torpedoes, that kind of popped up and it gave the evolution of the Mark 48,
yeah.
$5.4 million. That's how much a
Holy
torpedo costs.
smokes!
So a little known fact. And then they said the third part of this was obviously make it deployable on aircraft. But man, dude, that thing, that boat got smoked.
Done. I mean, that was like 15 seconds. It's underwater.
Yeah.
If anyone from PETA is watching this, don't worry. I'm sure all that oil and
Yeah.
stuff that's sticking at the bottom is fine.
It's definitely
Dolphins
not
are fine.
oil.
Yeah,
The Yeah, EPA is. It's funny you
yeah.
mentioned that because now it's out there. Maybe no one noticed it, but that had to be such an admin nightmare of like sinking a ship out in the water and some kind of eco-friendly environmental yada yada yada. And someone made a ton of money off that contract of like purging that of as much fuel and oil as possible, I'm sure.
No kidding. Man, can we talk about this video for a second? This is the most cheesy setup.
How
Like
much do you
literally
think?
the oh man, look at this. I think if it's replaying again, the bomb like flies off the screen. Yeah, here.
I want to. Oh, you know what? It
He's
does
about to
show
release
this
it.
bomb
Yeah, so
too.
there's a bomb and then like shoots forward, so it's like a missile.
Oh yeah, that's what
Like,
bombs do, right? They have
yeah,
propellant.
exactly. Yeah. Wonder how much money we spent on
This
the AFA stuff on this. But yeah, what a concept. I mean, I guess if you have a ship, like the rapid response stuff you talked about, you can get there much quicker. Obviously, with planes employing. Uh, I'd be curious. I didn't read much about it. Did it say whether it was a pure JDAM or a
it
laser
so it
guided
does
bomb?
mention that it is a JDAM body, so Joint Direct Attack Munition. And I don't know. I would assume. I don't know. It doesn't say if that's a 500 pound or a 2,000 pound, but it is the tail kit that makes it smart. And looking at it too, when it comes off,
Yep.
you wonder how accurate.
It looks like it.
That looks like a GBU 12,
Yeah.
like the seeker head on top of it.
Yeah, the front half does for sure, and then
Yeah.
the tail kit. Yeah, that'd be interesting. I can
GBU
only imagine a
54.
bomb like that. That would.
What's that?
Sorry, I think I cut out on you. So I can only imagine what that would look like. I guess if they hit underneath or just at the base of the water, I imagine it creates like a massive cavity.
'Cause that's what a torpedo
You
does,
know, it's
right?
like
There's someone from the Navy's got to be listening, but explode the torpedo like
yeah,
underneath the ship to create the vacuum, right?
yep, and then just like breaks it in half.
Yeah, that's wild.
It just seems like black magic to me. The Navy said.
It's wild to think I'm gonna watch it one more time. The dudes and dudettes that like think this stuff up to like destroy it, but one more time and then like big old boat sitting there minding its own business. And I mean that's a big boat.
No joke. I mean, I feel like you don't even get that sometimes, like action when you hit buildings or vehicles with bombs. Like it blows up. You don't
Right.
see like a.
Right.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can only imagine that the guy sitting around is just in a bar with a beer, going like, you know, what'd be cool? What if we
This
dropped a bomb on a boat?
Well, if you can see that 3D rendering, like a GBU 38, so 500-pound bomb. If you put like a steel nose cone on it, problem is it's GPS guided, so you would need the ability to hit a moving target. Um, but same
Yep.
concept, right? Like if you put a delay on it, and they can make it all the way through the boat. But I mean, boats are made of steel and stuff. Like, it's impressive that it's able to destroy that thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's see
Yeah,
what
I'm
else.
curious how.
Yeah, you haven't done any. I guess it's all new, so maybe you'll see some Quicksink stuff later, maybe later in your career.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. We'll
Speaking
see.
of Quicksink stuff, not tying the two together, but like everything, there's always something that's happening in China. See if I can pull this up. I have not actually looked around and seen like Chinese aircraft carriers. I've seen them before, but it looked like this past weekend there's an article out in USNI News that Carl Vinson was out conducting military exercises. I think they're doing that with with the Japanese and the Koreans, like a joint exercise that's going on. But 80 fighter missions came off the Shandong. I think that's like, yeah, their
That
carrier. 4
Yeah.
J-15 missions into Taiwanese airspace, and then doing a bunch of like diving type attacks and things like that. So I wonder if that's still an escalation. Or I know it's an escalation, but like where that fits on the chart. I saw a few months back like a chart of Chinese incursions into Taiwan airspace. It just like continues just to ramp up.
Yeah. It seems like it's just a ticking time bomb for sure over there.
Yeah,
I'm curious to how many of these exercises will just be exercises all of a sudden until they're not,
Well, that's the thing. I was talking on a podcast I recently did. I'm trying to remember. I'm blanking on it now, but like the Jordanian pilot that got shot down on my deployment, and then he was burned alive. But
Yeah.
you're wondering how do you not put up a fight? And all the stuff with like ISIS, right? Like how these people, they get executed. Like, how do they not put up a fight? Variable reasons, but I think a lot of it is they do these mock executions 50, 100 times. So when it is time that they're going to kill that individual, like, they don't know. So it's just like another dress rehearsal. And I mean, who knows if that's what will happen here, but
Yeah.
at some point, maybe it's no longer just a random incursion into the airspace. They're actually going to go offensive. Now we're going to be in life.
I mean, sure, a huge part of that is like the psychological part of warfare. They're going to keep doing it until it seems normal routine, and then I'm sure something will happen. No bueno.
We will. So I think one more thing that I just found entertaining, unless you have something else, but can you name the Air Force this guy flies for? This is a
Look at that jacket.
It's a Belarusian fighter pilot. So I guess the big deal is they're getting trained on tactical nuclear weapons and their frogfoots. Obviously the guy's
Cool.
getting interviewed and covering up his face and things like that. But
do you think they like fogged out his lenses, or do you think he just can't see?
Right.
Maybe it's
That's like the darkest. It's just an opaque visor. It's a matte visor. Like, just go put this on, and they like hold his shoulders and get him point like in a certain direction. Like, just talk this direction.
No kidding. He has like cables hanging from the helmet, but I don't see anything on the helmet that would induce a need for power.
I mean,
terrible.
Look at this. I mean, obviously they have to be quick connect cables, and to be fair, the Jahimix connection, the fact that it could decapitate you if you like don't hook it up right, and then you need to disconnect it prior to ejecting if it's a controlled ejection, it's not too comforting. So I guess can't make too much fun of like their connectors right there. But the F-35 helmet's got to be better, right, than the Jahimix with the way that's connected to the jet. Tell me it is.
Yeah, it's supposed to disconnect. It has so far with the ejections. That's a win.
Yeah,
similar cable.
Show a picture, but again, for those who aren't familiar, the joint helmet mounting queuing system that fly with the F-15, F-16. I'm trying to think who else. It has like a big like 2-inch or 1.5 by like 3-inch connector that you like snap together and you like hook it onto your harness. But if you're going to eject and it's controlled, you should have the part of the checklist is to disconnect that. Obviously, if you have to pull it immediately, you just kind of hope that it's not going to like snap your neck because you're tied down to this thing. But
Yeah.
um,
That was my fear, like egress in the jet, and like you jumped out if you don't take your helmet off, and like you're half hanging by the back of your helmet,
yeah,
just
not
dangling.
where you want to be.
No, not a good
Well,
spot.
Fitty, is there anything else I think we should hit on this week? Again, just a couple quick hits with the espionage piece, which I think is going on. The Quicksink bomb, which is interesting to me. The Chinese still keep encroaching on Taiwan, and then our Belarusian pilot friend.
Yep, that's a good buddy. Yeah, no, I feel like that China thing will probably keep coming back up, and then we probably just keep tabs on the. I'm curious to see what the fallout is going to be across like just the DoD in general with security stuff. Remember, like 9/11, it was always like everything was compartmentalized, like everything was stovepiped, like no one could talk, and that was a big part of like not sharing information. And now it's shared more readily, obviously in classified ways. But I'm curious how much this will be, the knee-jerk reaction if it's going to shut that down again, which would be a terrible thing, I think.
Well, we've obviously had a lot of kind of big classification leaks. Like I remember WikiLeaks, right? At that time, that was if you needed to burn a DVD or a CD in the vault, you could do that and you can move media from one computer to the next. But then it really ramped up to being able to like, all right, hey, I'm PCSing. I need to be able to take my digital documents to where I'm going to next. But even that was like a process. It was a process. Like, yeah, everything just became much more painful.
Yep.
But it's interesting too. It's like, I guess this is like in the 80s, you didn't really have to worry about this, right? You had to worry about one person having access to documents, being a pain to copy and print them, get them to an adversary. But now it's like if you get them within a matter of minutes, you can have terabytes of data uploaded across the web. So,
and apparently gets you mad bonus points on Discord.
his rankings through the roof. I don't know how this works. I'm so
serious
old.
street cred. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, if you're listening to this, you like it, if you have comments, suggestions, we're all about it. I think this will evolve as we go forward. But the idea is to, talk about some current topics, answer a couple questions if those are out there. It should be fun. So 50, I enjoyed it, man.
Cool. Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.
Thanks.